Okay, the 29th, I guess? Yeah, 29th of December, as I'm leaving the AMC Theater in Mobile, Alabama. David back again with another review. Just saw Nosferatu 7 p.m. showing here. So I got my date, got my location. Well, not on a date, but the date on which I saw this. 29th of December. I wanted to catch this while it was new. I'm very pleased to say that the theater was mostly full. I wanted to say full house, but not all of those little seats were X'd out. I like how you get to choose your seating these days, but it's going to become a problem. This is the second time in recent memory where some guy was in my seat, and I just kind of sat very near to where I had selected. Like, hey, dude, you want to show me your ticket stuff? I don't actually work here, but I think you're in my seat. Anyways, let me get on with talking about this movie. I'm on a little bit of a horror kick, and I didn't foresee that coming, but it's been something that's kind of been building up with me for a while, because I really need to know the feel of some of these horror movies, how tense they make the build up to a scene, and just basically doing my homework for something I would like to make one day. And I need to watch more horror if I'm going to be able to successfully pull off the horror elements of the film I would like to make one day. Anyway, let's get on with this movie. First things first, fresh on my mind, Willem Dafoe. I really liked him in this. He almost stole the show as far as his role. I'm going to sit down behind my laptop when I get home so I get everybody's name right. I'll know his name, the professor that he played, and so on and so forth. But just my very first impressions leaving the theater while stuff was right on my mind. Spoiler alert, I'm going to put spoiler alert in the beginning of this, so you'll know I'm going to get into the details of the movie, because that's just how I do these videos. So, warning you, if you don't want anything ruined. This is mainly, first and foremost, for people who have seen the movie, and I'm just discussing it with them here on Rumble, YouTube, wherever this video winds up one day. How scary was it? I'll talk about that first thing, and then get into some more in-depth stuff whenever I can get home, comfy in my chair, and just think about the movie a little bit more. How scary was it? There were 2 or 3 good little jump scares. A couple of them actually went with the atmosphere, but as far as like I said, I'm on a bit of a horror kick. I, in the past few weeks, saw both of the Smile movies, and that sense of like overwhelming dread that I had when I was watching those movies. And this is what I'll talk about first and foremost, as far as what kind of a horror tale is being told. Nosferatu is also, as the story goes, it is a demonic deal. But there was just something different about, for instance, the Smile movies that I recently saw and this movie. They made this movie, Nosferatu, it's atmospheric. It gets the job done. It is to me, you know what, I'll say that in the end. I'll end on that note, so let me skip ahead. I wasn't that scared. I was watching a story unfold here. What exactly is going to happen, I don't know, because this is a retelling. This is the latest iteration of Nosferatu, and it, not knowing the tale much about it, I'm basically just going on what I saw in this movie and how it landed with me. I just wasn't that scared. I just wasn't. Like I said, a couple of jump scares in the atmospheric lead up to when you first see Nosferatu, Lord Olak. That was one thing. But I'm not going to say I got bored, but there was just kind of a... I don't want to use the word bored, But there was just the way the story unfolded. It's like, okay, this is going to happen, and then this is going to happen. Don't get me wrong, I enjoyed the flick. It's one of those movies that doesn't have a lot of rewatchability with me, but I wanted to see this because it has kind of a pop cultural presence right now. I got to confirm this when I get home, but I think I heard Mr. H reviews say they made this movie for $25 million, and it's made much more than that. Like I said, it was almost a full theater. There were lots of people on this Sunday night who were watching this 7 o'clock showing, AMC, Mobile, Alabama, and I'm like, hey, that's interesting. I'm glad I came here to do this. I'm gonna try and make sure I catch Sonic 3 very soon, and somebody needs to turn the radio down. Yeah, now I'm home free. Not much traffic now. Yeah, how scary was it? Let me say this, and then I'll quit videoing, and I'll wait until I get home to talk about the rest of it. I'll say this. I think I can explain it this way. There's something about the Smile movies, and it was the reason, and it's what kind of put me on this horror trend I'm going to be on for at least 3 or 4 more movies to play catch up on recent horror films, and then I'm going to take a nice long break from it because I can only take so much horror because it actually does affect my dreams at night. I kid you not, the negativity of it, you know, because when I watch a movie I really get into it, and I can only take so much. Anyways, those Smile movies, when I saw that trailer, I said this in my Smile reviews, there was something about the idea of the premise, of the way the curse was passed, and how the trauma entity worked, and how it was so much more of a mind movie. Whereas this, I went in thinking, okay, this is another Count Dracula film. Okay, let's see what they do this time. And a lot of people are going to see this, so you know what? I'm trying to get back into seeing more movies and making more movie reviews. I'll catch this one too. Who knows? Maybe it'll be good somehow. And so I gave it a try, and I had a decent time with the movies. Even though there are elements in this that it couldn't be a movie that I would ever make, because there's a little bit of nakedness and sudden a scene. If you've seen the movie, a scene of sudden sexual intercourse, we'll say. That was like, really? That's where we're going with this? But then it turned into another little mind move, jump scare, a hallucination type deal. But anyway, let me stay on point here and explain the difference and why I didn't think it was that scary. And then I'll get into more details when I get home. Let me say this quickly. There was a sense, because the curse is passed into the mind of the person. I guess that's what really had me going with the Smile movies. I can't explain it, but that it's set in modern day, obviously, whereas this movie, Nosferatu, is in what was that, the 17th century, 18th century Germany. And I thought, you know, they could do whatever, they could really pull it off, and they did pull it off, in my view. The way that Nicholas Holt's character, he was a star in this movie. I don't care what anybody says. He really he went all in and being this character who wanted to do right by his wife and wanted to actually provide her with something in this world. And that's what took him away, and then that came back on him in ways, again, that what is a man supposed to do exactly, you know? you understand if you've seen the film what I mean by that. And there's another male character also who is like, what more can this guy do in this particular situation? And I gotta get home and make sure I think that's Aaron Taylor Johnson, but I'm not 100% sure, because the way they had him done up. I'll check when I get home. Again, this is just my first impressions and whatnot. I'm not going to go much longer with this before I actually get home and make my sit down, chill out review of this movie that I just saw. I've already said it. It's more of a mind movie, the Smile movies. And I keep comparing it to the Smile movies because that's what I most recently saw, and the reason why I'm watching a few horror films, just to have a look-see out of curiosity, kind of a morbid curiosity, granted, but it's just a movie-going curiosity about how stories of that genre are told, in film. That sense of like just overwhelming dread. It like at the very beginning of Smile, for instance, it sucked me in a way that this film, being more of a slow burn movie, it just didn't. Even though Count Orlok is supposed to be, it's demonic in its story origins, yeah, but it's just different. It's just very, very different, and the power that he has. And another reason is why in the Smile movies they made the damage that demonic entity was doing seem as plausible as they possibly could. You could watch those movies and say, okay, well, perhaps this is what people who are truly out of their mind and seeing things, maybe in their mind, you have to admit that this is what they're seeing. And so, yeah, they are whacked out of their minds. And so this horrible monstrosity that is pursuing them and tormenting them and haunting them and all the rest of it, the creators of the Smile movies, they made it just seemed much more real to me than a story about Count Orlok and Nosferatu. But again, as far as just I'll just say this, as far as a Dracula movie goes, they did a very decent job as far as what they did with this movie. It's kind of a downbeat ending for sure, but I'll get into that in my more thorough review when I get home. Anyway, let me stop running my mouth here, and I'll just wait till I get home to say the rest, because I need to sit down and talk about this and make sure I get everybody's name right and give kudos to certain people especially. Hey folks, now I'm home, back home again. Nice and comfy in my chair, so now I can take my time finishing up my little talk about what I saw tonight at the movies. Where's my ticket? Again, I'm not going to repeat my usual complaint. I'm just going to show you. Can't see it, and that's part of the problem. I want ticket stubs, not whatever that is. I hate that little Walmart receipt looking junk. Anyways, let me share a screen with you because I'm going to get these names right. Nosferatu 2024. In the 1830s, estate agent Thomas Hutter travels to Transylvania for a fateful meeting with Count Orlok, a prospective client. In his absence, Hunter's new bride, Ellen, is left under the care of their friends, Friedrich and Anna Harding. Plagued by horrific visions and an increasing sense of dread, Ellen soon encounters an evil force that's far beyond her control. And that's what you get in the movie. Now, I want to go through the actors and actresses a little bit. Right here, I did not realize that Lily Rose Depp, I saw Depp when I was looking at IMDb right before I hit the record button. And I'm like, I looked her up there. That's Johnny Depp's daughter. Johnny Depp's daughter. I had no idea she's 25 years old. And that photo of her right here on the cast is, well, she looks much nicer than she did in the movie. I'll just say that. And they had her done up very, very, very old-timey. And she looked the part. The movie looked good. And I got to give it that right out of the gate. This movie looked good. Bill Skarsgård, I would have had no idea that he was Count Orlok. And he completely immersed himself into that voice. I never would have thought that was Bill Skarsgård if nobody ever told me. Willem Dafoe as Albin let me get his name right. uh, Alban Herbert von Franz, the the professor basically who was booted for being into the occult. He was great. It is Aaron Taylor Johnson as Friedrich Harding. I thought that was him, but I wasn't ready to say it. I was like, that's got to be him, and I'm really glad that he had this neat little role in this movie as Friedrich, because the movie where he's the lead, almost it couldn't remember the name. Friedrich Craven the Hunter, not Friedrich the anything. Craven the Hunter just is not doing well at all. And Nicholas Holt as Thomas Hutter, he was great in this. And one more person, just before we get into the meat of it, there was this lady who played his wife, that is Friedrich's wife, Anna Harding, played by Emma Corrin. I saw her and I'm like, where have I seen her before? It was driving me nuts. I'm like, I've seen her somewhere. She is the bad, she's the evil, whatever. I didn't watch Deadpool and Gimmick. I skipped that movie, Deadpool and Wolverine, because I'm like, nah, I'm not gonna spend my money on that. I could see right through that junk. I know it entertained millions upon millions of people and raked in $1 billion, but I'm like, no, I just can't. Anyway, that's where I saw her from and all of the trailers and stuff. She was the I guess the daughter of Charles Xavier, so that's where I saw her from. It was driving me nuts. Let me look up Ralph Ineson real quick and just see what he's been in. He's something about him seems familiar to me too. Just at a quick glance, I haven't seen any of his movies. He looks like he spends most of the time in horror. Anyways, uh, that does it for the cast, and now I want to get into the events. She, that is Ellen, is just cursed from the get go. And I really like the way the movie was set up as far as her uh, her dreams, her nightmares that she has, and that first beginning jump scare. I'm not. I take that back. I'm not going to count it as a jump scare. The way it leaped out at you in that like 1 second, where I didn't realize how much of a prologue, a an introduction or setup that was until later, when she basically confesses to Thomas how she had longings uh, for something, and it had to do with her own life and stuff. But as I think about it more now, it's like she invited something into her, some entity basically, and that was the start of it, uh, the start of this story as far as Nosferatu is concerned. That's when he that's when it started. And unfortunately, as I think about it, it really did start with her, and in a tragic way, it ended with her. And again, I'm going to put spoilers before the start of this video. And I got a couple of complaints as I've had a couple of hours to think about it. I'll get to those as I'm going along here. But just from the beginning, that was a neat little setup. The visuals were stunning enough. The whole, I don't know if they used a filter or what to capture. You can't see the moon, but the well lit sky, how great that looked, and that house, the way it looked as she's walking toward, and then where she's basically, I don't know what this imagery is, to be honest with you, as far as this first encounter that they had in her mind before it manifests with him in the flesh later. And it really gives that scene in the movie all new meaning as I think about it now, when he says, I forget the speech, and a little bit of it was hard to understand anyways because of how thick Bill Skarsgård was laying it on with that Count Orlok. I can't do it. I'll make a fool of myself. That voice that he
that he had for this, that he invented for this role, that was just totally immersed and impressive. I'm glad they had subtitles to actually read what was being said a lot of the time, even on the little plates on the outside of buildings. It's putting into English what this old 19th century Germanic speak is, and it's a really remarkable thing. Kind of kills the immersion when you realize, man, these Germans are speaking just impeccable English, aren't they? Anyways, it was a neat little setup, and it just as far as the imagery goes in the very beginning, unfortunately, because of, I'm not going to call it overacting, but it really got gratuitous at one point in the movie. Her convulsions that she went through, and her character is the only one really. Lily Rose Depp's character, Ellen, is really the only one who does this, because she's the one who's fully possessed, and she with the eyes later on in the movie. It got old. It got, man. I'm getting fatigued by it. It's one thing if you're watching some movie when there are multiple people, but it's like, okay, when is this person going to get out of this? That part did get kind of old. I'm like, oh great, here she is again, going through her convulsions. If it had been any more, it would have been a major complaint. But as it is, it's just part of of her story. And like I said when I was in the car, the creepy buildup with Thomas, it looked so good to me. It looked so good. I got to give credit to Mr. Robert Eggers. He did the screenplay and directed it. What they did with, they spent just enough time, at least for me, with his journey, especially after Thomas loses his horse when he's on his way to Count Orlok's castle, and how great that looked in the dark. And you're thinking how secluded this place is, in this place that was beyond Bohemia and all that. When you learn that at the very beginning, when Thomas is speaking with his uh, basically his boss. He wants to be a full uh, to have a full official position. He wants to be partner this firm. He does the legalese. He's got to bring in this. He's got to do for these wealthy clients, and the next one up, and this is going to secure his job. It's going to secure his future. He's going to be able to have enough money to provide for his new bride the way that he wants to, and everything about it is just that. Well, that's what a man has to do. And yet it's a horror movie. As his boss is talking to him at the beginning, Ernock, played by Simon McBurney, I'm thinking, dude, this is very obviously a scary tale you're living in, because his boss is so edgy and kind of not, I'm not going to say creepy, but kind of odd in the way that he talked to him. It's Providence. It's Providence. Oh, it's Providence. And then the Providence takes on a whole new meaning later in the movie. He was a real sicko. He didn't he, this movie's versions of the Winfield, which is what Renfield, whatever is what, which is what he would be serving Count Dracula in other movies. That was really something, because he was basically a madman who was almost so far gone he couldn't hold it anymore. Literally, when he says goodbye to Thomas, like, no, no, you've got to go out and journey in person to him, and bring him here. It is his wish. That's the last time he's sensible. The next scene, he's nude and writing something, maybe with his blood, and eating birds when they capture him and take him to the madhouse, the nut house. And that was pretty gory, biting the pigeon's head off. I should have stayed back in the theater long enough to see that sign they put up. No animals were harmed in the making of this movie, but I didn't. The music was playing, and I'd let everybody stream out of the theater. Then I went. But yeah, back to what I was saying about the good visuals in particular. At first, I thought, what is this? What are they doing with the way they're doing this? because Thomas goes through some backwoodsy places on his way to his destination that like he's never been to before. These are the 19th century Germanic hillbillies, you might say, with the dancing and maybe a dialect he doesn't fully understand. But at least the master of the inn understood money. Thomas said, I can pay you double. I just want to stay one night. And then nobody's around the next day. And he tries to get explanations from Orlok about why they believe what they believe. And there's something, but of course, Orlok is too busy scheming and just drawing Thomas into his little plan, his little world, his design that he has for Thomas's wife, uh, Ellen. And let me finally get this out. The character of Thomas is basically decent throughout, and that's what I like about this movie. There's one constant. Ellen goes through this cycle of she knows what she's done, what she's going through. She tries to help other people, but she can only do so much. And then she comes back around to, at the end, realizing what she has to do if she's really going to end her dilemma and end her, to slay her demon, basically, is the way the story goes in this movie, anyways. So Thomas, not wanting to leave her, but at the same time, he's drawn to, how do I say it? It's not that he wants to be rich and put on airs. He's got to do what he's got to do. That's the way I see it, and that's why he left her. When she goes demon mode temporarily, she tries to throw that back in his face, and he by then he's learned it's madness. She's going through a madness, and that's why she's saying some of the things she's saying. But his whole journey of going there, being willing to go there to fetch Count Orlok personally, at least that's what he thinks he's doing, but the misfortunes that befall him along the way with the weather and being all alone. This is what I started to say a minute ago, how they slowed down just enough and showed you so much of the countryside and then those people. He loses his horse, and it wasn't too short or it wasn't too long. That's what I'm trying to say. As far as that journey he takes in the beginning, it just started to make me think of that time and what it would have been like. Like, there are no airplanes, there's no mass communication, there are no automobiles, and now this man has lost his horse. There's not even as many people as there are today. And I'm just thinking about it. Out there in the wilderness, vast expanses of miles that you'd have to travel, and then at nighttime, how good they made it look. How he's coming down this road, and the sound was excellent. At first, you're like, you see something up ahead, but even he doesn't know what. And then it's the sound of these. This was a great scene. The sound of those horses and the thump, the thump, the thump as they got louder and louder. And you're thinking, is he going to get out of the way? Or is he about to get trampled to death? What's going on here? And then it all stopped. And it was one of the tense moments of when the horses kneed and whinnied and kicked up for a second. And then the way it looked on screen is like, it looked like they disappeared, and all that was left was the chariot that somehow had turned in the darkness, like in the blinking of his eye, sideways, and the quietness of it when that door just kind of opened. It was a very eerie moment, and it was good, very good. He gets in, and already this sense of foreboding and dread has started to creep over Thomas. Uh, I think all he has now is like the shirt on his back and whatever documents maybe he had in his coat or something that Orlok would need to sign to buy this old abandoned house or whatever he was trying to move to near where Thomas lived. And nobody understood why he wanted to go there, but it becomes very obvious as the story goes on. But before I get too far, there was a scene with the villagers where it kind of messed with me a little bit because I was thinking it seems like the movie's cheating just a little bit. Like, how are we getting from here to there? But looking back, it actually was just clever, a clever way to do it. And it's how Thomas witnessed these strange occultic whatever little ceremonies and beliefs that the villagers had. There's a naked woman on a horse. Were they going to offer her as the virgin that's necessary to take the curse away, or what? Because all that you see after that is this tense moment of they have dug up this grave, and it's they're all speaking, and you see in the subtitles it's the vampire's grave. They actually use the name vampire. I think it's the only time the term vampire is used in the movie. That moment when you read it in the subtitles, the vampire's grave is like the townspeople, the villagers off in the boonies. It's like they're the ones who know more than anything about what's going on and about how what afflicts them in out there where they live. The guy pries open the thing real quick. Already has his stake and the hammer, and he says, I forget what he says, but it was colorful. Stake in the heart, and it's like the corpse wasn't all that decayed, and the guy vomited like he was stabbed in the heart, and at that moment, it was a neat little scene, and it passed so quickly. You're like, what just happened? Because I remember the guy vomiting, like ugh, the guy who's dead in the casket in the box that they just dug up, and in like 3 seconds, stake to the heart, ugh, and there's Thomas Holt. It's like he was Hunter, Thomas Hutter, snuck behind him to see what in the world are these people doing, and why is that woman naked, and why do they have torches? He's like, in the name of God, no, or something like that, and he says it so quick. The guy looks back at him, and he was the guy suspicious of him when he first arrived in town because there he is, well dressed, basically a banker type from the city, whereas they're all just in their rags almost, just their customary peasant clothing out in some village, and they were all like, hey, and some were like, go back to where you came from, murmuring and stuff, and the one guy's like, you shouldn't be here, and then the guy who actually took the money from him, the guy who's he 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 took the money because he was gonna take the money so that Thomas could sleep there for the night, and then that happened, and this is what I started to say a second ago. I know I'm all over the place with this, but that's that's just the way I do these videos. The guy looked back at him all suspicious, like that guy followed us out here in the night and he knows what's going on. And then he goes to black. Then Thomas wakes up and there's mud on his boots. And even he has this like confused look on his face. And you're just thinking, I was thinking, okay, what's going on? Did he stumble upon something that are the villagers going to be after him for some reason? But no, that's all you see from those villagers. That town, the little town that he passed through, not even a town, just a peasant, small peasant village, not like the city where he was from. And it happened so quick. I was like, I'm almost confused. It's like he knows something's off. Now he really knows something's off. And then it's when he continued on his way, because then in that great little visuals, the sound was great. It's like there's no sound at this part of the movie when it's dark, it's snowy. How cold is it? You're thinking. He's walking so still, and then that great scene with the chariot, the black horses coming up in the night that take him the rest of the way to the castle, Count Orlok. And this is where things started to kind of slide downhill for me. And I'm not beating up the movie. I'm not saying it was bad because of this. I was just trying to gauge within myself: am I really scared by this? By the way they're doing this, is it scary? And it's just something I thought about as I was going along, because from the first moment he actually speaks with Count Orlok, and I'm thinking that's Bill Skarsgård underneath all that. You can't even see him at first. It's only when they allow the light to adjust when they're sitting down. It says eat, sit. He's sitting down at the table, and there's Thomas just on edge because this person is so odd, and he demands to be recognized as Lord. You will call me Lord by my family's right, and all this. So Thomas starts calling him my Lord, just like that. And he has him sign something in a second that you don't realize till later that, oh, that wasn't what Thomas thought it was. Um, Unless I'm completely, there's something about the plot that maybe I completely missed about it was like the annulment of a marriage, that kind of a writ or certificate that he was signing. Was that what Orlok tried to play off? Anyways, what what bothered me and what kind of broke the spell a little bit was that voice was so good, but in that brief 2 or 3 minute exchange when Thomas is first sitting down with Orlok at that dinner table, and he says, "Eat, eat." But before that, he said something that Orlok didn't like, and when he yells at him, it broke it. It broke the spell. And what I mean by breaking the spell was, it's like, okay, the way he yelled in that moment in the movie, it ceased to be, the tension went away for me. I can't explain it any other way than that. I was just thinking something just happened. The 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 scary kind of went away. Even with the really kind of spooky imagery, as Thomas looked to his left, like warming himself by the fire. What was it that Orlok told him to do? Because that wasn't Orlok standing over there. It's like the fireplace, the statue looked like it came alive and just kind of looked at Thomas. Was that my imagination? That wasn't Orlok. That was the castle coming alive. Like, wow, that was a neat little moment. But it was something. It was in the same scene, the same sequence as what this is happening, but it ceased to be. The scary went down a few notches, but with the way that he yelled, and something happened with the sound with the movie at that moment, and I'm like, oh man, something just happened. They try and pick it right back up, at least with Thomas accidentally cutting himself. And it's all I'm thinking, oh great, this is Mr. Burns in the Simpsons episode. Remember Mr. Burns was Count Dracula? Oh, precious blood. Orlok can't help himself, like, I think I should tend your wound or something like that. He goes around the table and you're thinking, oh man, it's about to start. It's about to get real right now. He needs that blood. And this was like the where it really changed for me as I was watching the movie. And again, I'm not trying to beat it up too much here. I'm not trying to trash the movie. It's just, if they're clearly trying to present something on screen that I'm not feeling, especially in a horror movie, and I don't watch a lot of horror, but so I really pay attention to how things go whenever I do. There's this moment where he's coming around the table very clearly, like gonna do something to Thomas. What exactly? You're not sure, but Nicholas Holt's face goes full panic, freak out, without making any sound. He's got a full on emo face, like something out of maybe the Smile movies, when one of the lead actresses who had the parasite or whatever was full freak out or whatever. Holt Thomas looks like he is scared to death as it approaches them. The camera approaches them, and then it fades away to the another part of the story talking about Ellen or something. And I'm thinking, I thought to myself as I was watching that in the theater, thinking, okay, he couldn't have been more frightened at that moment, and yet I didn't feel anything at that moment, and it kind of bummed me out in that moment, just because something went away in the course of that first conversation. The voice, Bill Skarsgård's voice, was great, and yet something happened when he raised when he yelled at him one of those times. That's when it happened. That's when it happened. Anyways, let me pick up the pace here a little bit and get on with the rest of the events of the film and just give kind of a cursory uh, flyover of it. The way that Orlok gets himself sent I thought that was kind of neat. Um, in a box like he's dead. I thought this is pretty neat. I didn't think of this because I was under the impression, again, I haven't watched a lot of, not just horror, but this particular story, Nosferatu, Count Dracula, the the living. What is the other way they say it? It's not the living undead, is it? I can't think. I thought he was gonna actually go there and present himself as a gentleman and actually be a part of a part of society. Eccentric guy living in a ruin and charm the people a little bit. No, befriend some people. No, it's a full on assault thing. He makes it a plague ship that he's on. The rats, it's him, but it's the rats who are then spreading this disease to the crew. A woman has died, and right then, when they're investigating it, speaking their native tongue, subtitles is all you can read as it's nighttime, and they're like, "This is the plague is on this ship." Immediately, a guy collapses and starts throwing up his guts, and the captain's like, "Everyone out, quarantine, quarantine." And I thought, what's going on here? How is this going to happen? I didn't realize yet that it was a plague ship. It was part of Orlok's plan to basically assault the city and cause a plague to be out to was it bubonic plague? He was attacking the city with bubonic plague. And then when they're throwing the dead bodies off later, and I thought, did they just throw him off? Because I know he's in that box, isn't he? This was the stupid moment for every horror movie. I guess has to have one stupid moment where you're like, dude or woman, why, why did you do that? Why? This is the dumbest behavior possible. People don't behave like this in real life. Every horror movie, I guess, has to have that one moment when that guy goes down. He's like, "I will end this plague myself." Well, at least that's what it says in the subtitles. He goes down there with his little axe or whatever. No, he didn't even have an axe yet. He picks up an axe when he's down there. When he goes down there with just a lantern, and I'm thinking, dude, you're about to die. He's gonna kill you. Count Dracula is gonna kill you and suck your blood. That's definitely what's gonna happen here. And this was the one. It wasn't a jump scare. It was the one really freaky moment. He walks by, and because of the light and the flame and the way the lantern was, you, the viewing audience, can see there's a big, imposing guy, hideous looking Joker with exposed back and stuff that just kind of went like that. And you're like, oh! He walked right by him. He was right next to him in the dark, in the bowels, the belly of the ship, the belly of the beast, and he didn't even realize it. And then, and you're like, oh no, this actually was kind of a tense moment. He apparently he knows about the vampire whatnot too. He's got his stake in the thing ready at that point. He pops the lid open, but then all that's in there is rats. And you're like, oh no. And then Orlok gets him from behind, doesn't just suck his blood. He basically bites his jugular out so the blood's splurting everywhere. Like, oh man. So then he can just slurp it up. And then when the plague ship literally crashes, I'm like, it was kind of jarring to me the way that unfolded because they didn't show it for one, and that's not really the problem. It's the fact that there was no subtlety to it. It's like a punch in the face, like assault that Count Orlok is pulling her on the city. It wasn't just a ship docked and some rats got off that had the plague, and so now the plague's going to start. No, this is a fast moving. This is happening now. Not really hiding anything. that's going on except himself. He doesn't just stay on the ship. He goes to his home, and the madman, Hernock, played by Simon McBurney, Thomas's boss. Oh man, this guy. I think he'd give me nightmares worse than Count Orlok. That's one thing about it. This is one movie that isn't going to mess with me the way the Smile movies did. There's just something about it because I wasn't on edge for 2 straight hours the way I was with those movies. And it's just the way it is. It's the way it's just the details of the story and what you're seeing on screen is why. Because this thing, it's not some demon in the mind, though it's real, it's still in the mind. No, this is an actual manifested person who has wolf-like dogs that he'll sick on Thomas as Thomas was trying to escape his castle early and stuff like that. He's like, "You've got my pendant." She had given him a pendant with a lock of hair in it, and that's part of what Count Horlock was using to I don't know, reach out to her in his dastardly cold way or whatever. Let me pick up the pace here a little bit. Ellen suffers more attacks. Nothing can explain it. Dr. Wilhelm gets with Albin I keep getting the name wrong. I'm just going to call him Von Franz from now on. Von Franz, played by Willem Dafoe. This is for me his most memorable thing he's done since his very good, I believe, good portrayal as the Goblin in Spider-Man. I enjoyed him on screen that much. He was tearing it up as this man who knows what's going on, a researcher. He's been ostracized by his colleagues and basically maybe canceled, you might say, because of what he's come to understand about the occult and whatnot. Dr. Willem gets with him because he was his old student, and then he's like, oh man, he's a madman toward the end because of what Willem Dafoe, Von Franz is willing to do at the end of the movie when it's become obvious to him and Ellen. They're the only ones who truly understand what's going on. And you see it doesn't just jump out at you because of the subtle way they did the dialogue in that scene where he kissed her hand, and when he turns around and he says, in ancient times you might have been a priestess or something like that to lead people, but here in this strange, odd, modern world of ours, you're much more important. I forget all the dialogue, but it made, in my mind, I'm doing a double take, like, she's going to have to sacrifice herself. That's what he just said. Or at least be the bait for whatever trap they're going to try and trap Orlok in. That's what happened and what they just said there. But again, they're using the old-timey lingo. They're very good at that in this movie, I believe. And you're like, yeah, that's just what happened. And you're kind of freaking out like, oh, great. What's going to be involved to stop this awful curse? But by this time in the movie, it's become so dire. People are dying. Hospitals are overfilled with these afflicted plague victims. People are just dropping because of the plague. And so the situation has gotten so bad. And in the meantime, the situation with Thomas's friends, played by, again, Aaron Taylor Johnson plays Friedrich. Let me get his name right here. Friedrich Harding and Anna Harding. They have these two daughters with he's thinking a hopeful son on the way. And it's the saddest thing in the movie, what happens to his family, because this curse that Ellen Ellen believes she brought it on herself, which the way she does the dialogue, she kind of did, even though she thought she needed something. And I couldn't help but start thinking about the modern conversation going on with women these days and what they think they need and how what they think they need and the kind of man they think they need ends up helping them destroy society. Anyway, another a whole nother video for a whole nother channel, that conversation. But it was good stuff as far as the the I believe the plot was good there as far as what what she realized, even if in that particular moment she didn't realize what would be required of her. But this guy, Friedrich Harding, and this is where I talked about this in the car on the ride home, how it's like, what more can this guy do? He's trying. He loves his friends. He's good friends with Thomas. He means only well, but it's like he's got his own family to think of. And when she takes exception with him putting her out, it's like, I've got to get this mad woman away from my kids, because he's a man of reason. Basically, he didn't go for all of this occult stuff and what this curse is about. And I'm thinking to myself, what more can this man do? But the movie doesn't exactly play it off like that, um, or play it that way. It's more of, yeah, he is a butthead for kicking him out in their time of need or whatever. But the way the curse of Nosferatu is happening, it overtakes them all anyways, because the plague is in the city. They don't know what's going on, and they don't really until like the last 10 minutes of the movie, as far as what's going to have to be done in order to stop him and break the curse. And Anna Harding, played by Emma Corrin, she is the she is similar to Thomas Hutter in my opinion, in as much as there Thomas is like a thoroughly decent person, imperfect but decent, and there's Anna, who tried to do right by her husband, tried to do right by her friend, didn't want to leave her at all, ended up sharing her bed with her, wouldn't leave her, gave her the necklace, very sentimental. You're my friend, and all this, and all of your spells, it's in the past. You're okay. It's just a passing, because she tried to tell him so much about her nightmares and stuff, and how she has nightmares and memories that collide and all this stuff. And you'd have to watch the film, I guess, to know what I'm talking about. But what I started to say a moment ago, the sad part of the film, that this is one of my gripes, I guess. It wasn't given enough time to breathe. I'm wondering, okay, how is this telling of this story gonna end? Okay, we got some. It's rated R. We got some neck biting, blood squirting. We got a madman who sits in front of his fireplace nude, talking to his devil daddy. We got all this stuff. Okay, and the one moment of actual, like, oh no, this can't be happening. It's this ultra dark, evil, destructive force meets unknowing, tender innocence that needs to be protected thing. It's like, oh no, these two things are about to, because there's a scene where Anna puts her kids to bed. And they're praying to they're not praying to one another. They're saying, "Pray my soul, pray the Lord my soul to keep." Just precious little girls, they're young daughters. She closes the door. It's total pitch black in the house, and there's this tense moment where all of a sudden you're scared by the fact that it's Ellen who was behind her, and it was one of the sequences where she had her like total blank face, expressionless. Now that I know she's Johnny Depp's daughter, I can't stop seeing Johnny Depp in her face. Anyways, that was a kind of a tense moment, but that's also when they grew closer as a friendship. She wanted to help her friend, and then Nosferatu warns her basically, "You will succumb to me, or I'll kill all your friends." That was maybe the best, except for the initial meeting with Thomas. I would say that was what Bill Skarsgård's uh, best sequence, when she turns around and there he is, and the conversation they have for like a couple minutes as he slowly walks forward. That was the best in my mind. That was the best scene with Count Orlok. He throws her down because she's actually resistant to him and all this stuff. 3 nights. This is the first. Your friends will die. You will invite me, and there you see the old pattern of the old story. He has to be invited in. Didn't think about that in that moment. I'm just thinking, what's going on with this crazy movie? But yeah, that's a nice touch. He has to be invited in, and yeah. So let me keep going here. The dreadful thing was, her friends did pay the price. Friedrich's wife, when Ellen basically wakes up from a nightmare or whatever, she looks down and Anna's covered with rats and they've gnawed on her. She's infected with the plague. Then she's hallucinating and she's having her a good acting bit as she's emotional and then like tempered and running a temper, hallucinating and then smiling and can I see the girls and all this? And there's Friedrich who's been at his wits' end for maybe 75% of the movie because he doesn't believe in this junk and he wants his normal life back. And to the extent that he is willing to hear out Thomas and Dr. Willem and von Franz, they finally get to, we don't know what to do part. You don't know. And I feel for the guy. I feel for Frederick. I really do. And the scene where Anna then comes upon the room where Orlok is in there and he's munching on her daughters, the little girls. And this is, well, I guess this is another gripe against the movie. I'm just thinking, I see what I'm seeing, but it's like, it's maybe my brain says this is too traumatic to process. He drops one of them like a piece of meat. As she walks in, he's got another one sucking the blood out of this little girl. And then the way he drops her on that thud, I'm just thinking, okay, depressing, melancholy, sad, downbeat, whatever you want to call it, ending, inbound, incoming. Because now there's no coming back from that. This movie's going to have one of those kinds of endings. He looks at her, she screams, goes to black. He got her too. So Anna, her 2 daughters are dead. Friedrich is totally devastated. He kind of comes around with the plan, but he's so overcome with everything that's happened that all he does in the end is he kind of disappears from him. And Thomas wants to go through with the plan, and all the plan really is for stopping Nosferatu from von Franz is basically destroying the sarcophagus, the chamber that he has to have. Count Orlok has to have. At least that's what I took from what happened. And that with that destroyed, and then what happens in the movie happens, he would basically be destroyed. Apparently, he had Thomas thinking he was going to be in there. But then when he wasn't in there, it's dawning on Thomas at the end of the movie. You knew he wasn't going to be here, and you knew he wasn't going to be here since noon yesterday, since this morning, or whenever they first planned it. But Friedrich wasn't even with them. Friedrich had gone back to the tomb, basically, and in a very disturbing, sad way, he opens up his wife's casket talking to her. He had been spitting up blood, emotional, and he embraced her as though she were still alive. And I'm thinking, we're going too creepy with this. Is she going to come alive? Is Emma Corrin going to go, yeah, and be a vampire and suck his blood? What's going to happen? No, that's not what happened. She was deceased, and that's it. And it's like he laid down next to her in the thing. You don't see this part, and just passed away because he had the plague. I guess he knew he had the plague, and he was dying. And I just wish his death, that bit of acting that he could do there, and Anna Harding's character played by Emma Corrin, their 2 daughters, I wish it had been if you're going to do that, make that bit where Orlok is destroying his children more terrifying and foreboding. Give me some violin music when Anna has died. There's just very little going on in that part of the movie as far as background ambience to carry any emotion for these people. It's like, okay, they've died, and we're just kind of going on along with a logical sequence of, okay, now we're here in the snow and a funeral and it's sad. They've died, but so have a lot of people because there's a plague out. But you're just thinking, I'm thinking to myself, surely we're supposed to care about these people more than this. I wish it had been given more time to breathe. I wish there at least some music for those scenes to carry, because this whole family's wiped out. They're all dead because of the curse, Nosferatu. I'm thinking, stuff just got real. How is this going to end? How is this going to end? And it ends by Ellen, and von Franz knew this would have to be. He had read the poem, and the woman gave herself to the beast. About the time the cock crew, and the rising of the sun, and Nosferatu was destroyed. That's literally what happens. You see her verbally invite Nosferatu in. They get on a bed like they're about to do something. He looks awful because he's the undead. So horrible. And he doesn't bite people's neck all the time like he did Thomas's chest earlier, like trying to bite where his heart is, I guess. And the only reason he isn't horribly infected because those nuns prayed for him or whatever, or the priestesses or whatever he was in. They were trying to say, "You shouldn't leave us yet. You're not well yet." That's the only reason he's not maybe dead, because in this rendering, in this story, nobody else becomes a vampire. Anyways, that's how it ends. That's how it ends. He sucks her blood out. They had burned down his house. Basically, he had nowhere to go, and I guess with that destroyed, that's what was going to ensure he would be destroyed when she gave herself to him, basically. And I'm just thinking to myself, as all that's playing out in that 2, 3, 4 minutes, like, here comes Thomas. He's coming to save his wife. He's been trying to come save his wife this whole movie, trying to get back home, tell her about the devil man he encountered. She had resisted some of his comforts, been receptive to others. There's been a back and forth. At one point, toward the end of the movie, she goes full demon, like Nosferatu's in her head, and of all things, she says, "You could never please me like he could." And so Thomas proceeds to start mounting her on a 19th century couch or whatever that was. But then you see her with the and like she's vomiting blood for a second. That snaps him out of it. But I'm just thinking, is that really where we're going with this? We got to have a hate sex scene. Like, I'll show you who can please who. What was that? I just felt like the movie kind of went off the rails there. I've never seen that movie. I've never seen like Poltergeist or whatever those demon exorcism. I guess I'm gonna have to give them a watch to know what's going on. But I guess that would have been like that, with her being so out of it and contorting herself and everything. But I was just thinking, are we really progressing the story as this goes on? 2 or 3 times you have to see Lily Rose Depp's boobies. I kid you not. Just flashes of nakedness, but I'm just thinking it wasn't necessary at all. It never is, but I'm thinking maybe a little bit of sanctity, because modesty, these people are so fully dressed, well dressed in their 19th century fashions. It was kind of jarring to see her nakedness 2 or 3 times in the movie, when it's a mark against the movie, in my opinion, because you could have easily done all the same stuff without doing that. So Just my opinion, whatever. People probably disagree. And at the end, and this is how it ends, he does the deed of sucking her blood out. She's embracing him because she's fully given over to this. She's got to welcome into her heart, mind, and just let him have her. And as the sun rises, his sanctum is gone, and the sun actually has its effect on him through the window. And it was a neat thing to watch him die, and with her embracing him and all that. Pretty neat. Pretty neat way to do that. Then Thomas finally gets there with Dr. Willem and Von Franz not too far behind. And Von Franz, Willem Dafoe, recites that line of poetry again. And the woman gave herself to the beast by the time the clock crew, rising of the sun, and that was the end of Nosferatu, the curse of Nosferatu. And as I'm thinking about it now, it could have been a lot worse. Seen much worse endings for movies, and even for horror movies. Both of the Smile movies, for instance, that I've watched recently, had very downbeat endings of no hope at all. Whereas this movie, I was thinking as I drove home, maybe they could have had at least like not necessarily a sunshiny day sequence where Thomas is maybe at her grave or remembering her or something like that. But that's not the kind of movie this is. This film, this telling of Nosferatu really is like that. How do I describe it? An old school telling of a tale, like where it literally ends right there. There's no more scene, there's no more nothing other than that one room where the sun has just risen. Thomas has he's got tears streaming down his face. Dr. Williams there, just witnessing all that has happened. And Willem Dafoe's character, you see his reflection in a mirror that happens to be there in the corner as he's looking out into the rising sun, and the sunlight has filled the room, and then the quietness of it, and that's the end of it. And then some nice orchestra music starts up, and that was Nosferatu. That was it, and that's the way that one had to end. It ended with the curse being broken, the curse being destroyed. It's just you're thinking like what it took to destroy it, and yeah, it's uh, it's really something. Not sure what more I can say. It seems like there was something that was slipping my mind, and I'm gonna stop this recording, and then it's gonna come to me. Let me run down the cast one more time. But first, let me look. How 55 minutes. Oh my goodness! Can't believe that. Yes, I can. Bill Skarsgård. I understand that he's been in like the Crow remake. I didn't see it. The remake of Stephen King's It. That he's had a lot of horror outings, hit and miss. Some of them I didn't see those because I'm the kind of guy, if I want to see It, I never saw the original. I would probably go and watch the original It with Tim Curry rather than the new stuff. That's just me in a world where I'm getting too old to watch every movie that's ever been made. If you got to pick and choose, and some of the newer stuff. But it seems like with this movie, I think he really hit it out of the park. Again, I say that as somebody who hasn't seen all those movies, but at the same time, it's like this movie's done really well. And that's why I'm saying this. Let me look it up real quick and share the latest. By the time I upload this, it won't be the latest anymore, but 12/30/24, Nosferatu box office. I love the way they write this stuff. Nosferatu feasts amid Sonic and Mufasa's box office war. Nosferatu's Bloody Good Weekend, a complete unknown sings. Box office Nosferatu, a complete unknown, starts strong. How much money has it made? Debuts with 40.3 million. Again, it only took like 25 million, I think, to make the movie. I think that's what I heard. So that's I'll just say again, this movie's done really well, and so good for him, good for Bill Skarsgård. Willem Dafoe, I always call him William. Willem Dafoe, I really liked him in this. Lily Rose Depp, never seen her before. Now it was an interesting role to see her in. Nicholas Holt, gonna be Lex Luthor. He was good in this. I really liked him. Aaron Taylor Johnson. He for what his role was, I thought it was good. I just wish they had done a little bit more with him. And he's in the movie off and on quite a bit. I'm not saying that. I'm saying the way his family was taken from him, and then the way he died. I just wish they had given a little bit more, a little more. I don't even know how to say it. A little bit more time to breathe. A little bit more. Wish it had more emotional impact than I felt in the movie theater. That's my complaint. Um, let me let me see what else can I say here. I want to say everything the way I do uh, before I kill this because I don't want to make another video. I'm going to put this together with what I said on the road home those few minutes, and that'll be all for Nosferatu for I guess forever as far as my review. So what more can I say? What more can I say? It seems like there was something. There was something I wanted to say. You know what? I paused this, but I still can't think of anything. I'm gonna give the actresses and actors one more look over, and nothing's come to mind. So I guess that's all I got, folks. I want to say thank you so much for listening to me in this very long review. And yeah, I think that's all I got. Um, this was a one off for me. I might go back and watch that Dracula movie that had Keanu Reeves in it since I'm doing this stuff with horror for now, but I don't know if I will or not. It's we'll see. Um, just for comparison, just for fun. Uh, it was a ride, man. It was it was it was quite a thing. I say that a lot. It was quite a thing, and people are really liking it. It was a fun movie going experience. I got to be there with other people, which I love. I love it. Even if there were a couple of scenes where I was like, I don't know, I don't know. This certainly isn't something we can give our approval to. A couple of sequences, but yeah, it was interesting, and for whatever reason, and I can't explain this, people started like looking at each other and kind of laughing a little bit right after the movie ended, and I think it had something to do with the ending, but I couldn't tell you what. It was just one of those things where several people, had the reaction of I can't repeat it, but it's like I would have thought, at least for my part, I was just kind of somber, thoughtful, like, and that's the end of it. That's the only way this curse could have been ended or whatever. But it was just interesting. I'm like, some people had kind of I would have thought it would be a little bit of an odd reaction, any kind of audible laughter, but seemed like at least a third of the movie theater to my ears. Anyways, you make of it what you will, folks. Tell me in the comments what you think that was about. That'd be fun. Anyways, till next time, thank you so much. I'm out of here. Peace.